Hey, welcome back to the podcast. So, this week we are going to be talking about food and eating and nutrition. And we've touched on it here a little bit before. I think I have an episode a while back about how I don't really care how much you are eating or what you're eating until I know that you are eating enough. And this is an approach that I take with all of my clients. It's general advice that I would give to anyone. It is so important to make sure that you are consuming enough calories, nutrients, and fuel for your body. Your body has to have enough fuel in order to optimize, in order to function optimally, which is what I was trying to say, and also to help you feel really good and to feel safe to do things like get pregnant if that's a goal of yours. But in that episode, I didn't really get into some of the reasons like why this is so fundamentally important to me, why I have personally have a really hard time with restrictive diets, and why I, as a kind of general rule of thumb, don't recommend them for my clients and kind of just like don't even believe in them. And I think it's important sometimes for you guys to know where, like, why I'm coming from where I'm coming from and like what things in my past and my personal history have influenced my beliefs and my thoughts and the things that I educate and teach on. So that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. Um, I can remember growing up and being in high school. I was in high school during like the Special K diet movement. If you don't know what that is, Special K did a very smart, I guess, marketing plan. They created their own Special K diet, and basically you ate their cereal. Period. End of story. Like that's what you ate for like one or two meals of your day. And then it's just obviously like that is a very low calorie diet. That is not enough food. It's not even enough food for just breakfast, but much less to be consuming that for breakfast and lunch. Anyway, so I came up in high school during that movement. It was very, I mean, I feel like every female was on the Special K diet for at least a little bit. Then calorie tracking. I don't know. I was going to say like came into like the spotlight. Honestly, maybe I just became of the age that like calorie tracking was a bigger thing, but I definitely like had awareness of it. I didn't do it. I didn't start engaging in that yet, but skipping meals was like the cool thing to do. You didn't, if you were like, you wanted to be one of the popular girls at school, you didn't eat lunch, which is so stupid. So stupid. Um, but like that was the reality of the time then. And Lord, I pray it's different now. I pray it's different when my daughter gets to middle school and high school because there's so many more important things than being skinny and being healthy, being at the top of that list. But um, I can remember like feeling the pressure. I think pressure is the right word to use there. Um, to not eat or to like if I was eating, then I wasn't like as skinny or as pretty as other girls. And I'm not someone that has been like overly weight at any point in my life. If I'm being totally honest, I have been at a reasonable, healthy weight all throughout my life. However, there have definitely been times that, and still times, that I have not loved the way that my body looked, that I have wished I could lose a little bit of weight or I could tone up more, or that my body just like looked differently in certain types of clothing, or bathing suit or whatever. And I mean, that's still something that like currently at 9 months postpartum, I'm still dealing with. I have gotten to a much better place with it where I can love my body for all the things that it has done for me, that I can approach my nutrition and exercise and fitness in general from a standpoint of like, I am doing these things for the longevity and health of my body, not just for the like vanity metrics of looking good and or as a punishment for my body because we, like had cake last night. I've definitely matured and gotten past all of that. And I hope that you have too, if you're listening to this. And I do fully acknowledge that that battle goes deeper for some people and that it's much harder to overcome that than for some others. Now, when I got into college, I would have been college age. I did not go to a traditional college where I like immediately moved away from home, lived in a dorm. I went to a community college initially. Um, that's not super pertinent to the story, but it just like to give you some kind of context where I was. Like I was still living at home. My mom was still cooking me dinner most nights. Um, I was in school. And I can distinctly remember, I wish I knew exactly like what year it was, but it was definitely after I had graduated from high school, while I was still in those first couple of years after high school, because I was still living at home. And I got into calorie tracking. My Fitness Pal was like my BFF, and I tracked every morsel of food that I put in my body. And I am a very type A, like OCD tendency type person. So I actually found it really enjoyable to track. I'm always like, I'm a list maker. And it just, I don't know, like tickles something in my brain that I really like. So it was enjoyable. But I distinctly remember, and this is probably on my mind because last week was my birthday. But I distinctly remember going to the Cheesecake Factory restaurant for my birthday and ordering my favorite meal there. It's a pasta. I wish I could remember off the top of my head what it's called, but I can't. It's like bow tie pasta and it has all of this really yummy like peppers in it. It's kind of spicy. The chicken that's in it is like breaded and fried. It's delicious. I haven't had it in way too long. I need it. Um, and then of course we got cheesecake because why do you go to the Cheesecake Factory if you're not going to get cheesecake? So I remember this is in the deep throes of my calorie tracking days. And I remember like looking up the menu ahead of time before we went to the restaurant, knowing that there was so many calories in that huge bowl of pasta that they bring to you. Plus then what I was going to have as my cheesecake. And I accounted for all of that in my day. So like for breakfast and lunch, I ate very skimpily. And then when we got there to the restaurant and they like brought our food out, I immediately like sectioned off my plate into, I think, three portions, best I remember. And I could eat a third of it and then still have, I think it was half, or honestly, maybe it was a third of my slice of cheesecake and still be within my calorie range for that day, which was I just look back on so many of the things that I've done and that we do as women, and I'm like, that is so stupid. Um, and I don't say that to be ugly or like to put anyone down because literally I was literally doing it. That's what I'm telling you. But I remember and then of course like I took the extras home and I ate them over the next few days. But I remember like sitting there and eating the pasta and like having this little portion of the pasta and thinking like, gosh, I'd really like to have a couple more bites, but I shouldn't because that's going to get me over my calories and not doing it. Like, I'm sure I didn't. I'm sure I boxed it all up and took it home. And I'm not saying that you should go to the Cheesecake Factory and you should sit down and eat that entire bowl of pasta that they bring you. I literally think you get like a whole box of pasta when you get like their portions are huge. That's not the point here. Like the point is that I was micromanaging myself to the point that I was so out of tune with my own body. I wasn't listening to my own body to say like, okay, yes, we're hungry now, or no, we're starting to get full now, stop eating. I was fully reliant on this app on my phone to tell me how much to eat. And that it's just so not helpful. Not helpful. We really need to tune into our bodies. That's like one of my core messages is that we need to get more in tune with our bodies and listen to what our body is telling us because our body is so smart and it is internally working so hard to keep us safe and healthy and alive. And we need to let it do its job when it is sending us all of these signals. So I don't know like how much longer I continued to calorie track. But I remember doing it for, I mean, I did it for quite some time. And I mean, I'll be honest, I did see some weight loss from that. It was not anything dramatic, but again, I didn't have like a dramatic amount of weight to lose. Um, but at some point, I probably just got tired of like having to look up everything, barcode, scan stuff, enter it into this app. Like, who wants to do that all the time? It's just not, it's not fun. It's not a good time. So I don't know really the timing that took place here between these two events, this time of tracking and then what I'm about to also share. But at some point, I stopped tracking and went back to just, I don't even know that I would call it intuitively eating. I was just eating. Like I'm just eating like a normal person. I was not following any type of specific diet. I have always been a little bit health conscious. So like trying to make healthy choices where I could, but also indulging in the cheeseburger and pizza when that's what I wanted over the salad and not like really stressing about it. Um, I also then a little later on, it was when I was in my first two semesters, I believe, maybe first three semesters of nursing school. It was my first two semesters. It was in that second semester of nursing school, and my grandfather, who was in his 80s at the time, got pneumonia. And during that hospital admission, we discovered that he was aspirating. Now, my grandfather was extremely healthy and extremely active to be 80 something years old. Um, he worked every day of his life. You know, I mean, not like weekends, but like he went to work still up until the day he was 75. He had a heart attack that day. He had open heart surgery. He recovered so super well, even went back to doing some work after that time. And like it's like he had just even until up until the point that he had that heart attack, he had never been ill. He'd never been in the hospital. He was not on any medications. I mean, he was very healthy. And, you know, his whole life, he never grew up micromanaging what he ate, being on any type of diet. If he was hungry, he ate. And he loved to eat. He loved to sit down and enjoy a meal. He loved to sit down and share a meal with you. He loved to go out to eat. There was not like an event, a birthday, a gathering, a random Sunday afternoon that we were with him that there was not food involved. And he loved sweets. So during this hospital admission, he gets pneumonia and we discover that he's aspirating. And for those of you that are listening and you're like, I don't know what aspirating is. I don't know what that means. It's when the food and the fluids that you are swallowing are not going down properly. They are instead getting into the lungs a little bit. And that's obviously a big problem because there's not supposed to be food or drink in our lungs. So not that like this, how this whole thing was handled is like a total sidebar conversation for another day. But basically, he went from being totally healthy, able to do anything that he wanted to do, able to eat anything that he wanted to. I've got this pneumonia. Now they're telling me I'm aspirating, and now they're telling me that I can no longer eat. He got a feeding tube and was sent home. And that like rocked our world because like I previously shared, everything, I don't want to say like everything that we did, but like so much of what we did with him and time we spent together, food was involved and he loved to eat. So this was devastating for our family. It was absolutely heartbreaking knowing that like he truly enjoyed to eat so much. And it's such a basic human thing that we just do. And we don't even think about it as a possibility of like not being able to do that. Unless you've been through a similar experience or maybe you have a child with special needs that's not able to eat, like you just don't think about that kind of thing. You just, because it's not in your world, it's not on your radar. And it was a very hard time for our family to adjust to that. Now, he was a very tough man. He put up a really good front. We were so worried, like just the things that you just don't even think about. Like we were just like sick, worried that he would like feel hungry and just like he would want for things that he was being told that he couldn't have. I mean, I just can't even tell you all of the worries that that experience brings up for a family. But he was such a trooper. He literally never complained. If he ever did like feel hungry or he felt like he really desired to have something, like he never expressed it to us. Um, which I'm saying that to say that he wouldn't have told us anyway. He's just not the type. Like he's not a complainer. He's very tough. He would not have shared that with us because he also would have known that it would have bothered us so badly to know that that bothered him. So, longer story short, we eventually sought out a second opinion. And I wish that I could remember exactly why we did that or what led us to do that. I wish that we had done it in the very beginning because then we had a second set of providers that stepped in and were like, whoa, this was a really dramatic, like, decision and change that got made. And when that initial decision was made, he was not offered or even told that he should get like speech therapy and that it's something that if he worked on it, he probably could overcome. So then we went through this period of time where he was going to I almost said physical therapy. He was going to speech therapy, I think 4 or 5 days a week. Um, about 30 to 45 minutes away from our house, like where we live. My mom was taking him every morning before she went to work. And I think it lasted like 6 weeks or more because it was kind of like this. It wasn't an inpatient program, obviously, because he wasn't staying there, but it was an intensive outpatient program. And then past that point, he continued to do like exercises at home on his own and stuff. But rebuilt all of this strength in like his neck and in his swallowing muscles. And because of that, he was then able to go back to eating certain things again and kind of eating for enjoyment. He still had the feeding tube and would still get, like a lot of his nourishment through that route, but he could eat and eat for enjoyment. And that whole experience was such an eye opener for me. And I think, and kind of the reason that I'm sharing this is because it just gave me a whole new perspective on diets and restricting and telling yourself, like, no, you cannot have something. And it's not been something I've ever done since. And I don't think I ever will. And I don't think that I will ever recommend it for clients unless someone truly has an allergy to something. Because if you just like sit back and think about life when you are 80, 90, 75 years old, is it really going to matter what you weighed and looked like when you were 30? Like, is following some strict diet, reducing your calories, and missing out on birthday cake with your kids, going out to eat with your friends, is missing out on that stuff or telling yourself that you can't or you shouldn't do it going to be worth it? I'm not 80, 75, 90. I'm not there yet, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that I'm going to look back, and if I was doing that to myself, like even now thinking about like looking back on my time when I was spending time calorie tracking and telling myself I couldn't have things, I think now I'm like, gosh, that was so stupid. And I know that I would have that same thought when I was 75, 80, 90 years old, looking back on it, if that's how I was living my life right now. And I was missing out on all of this like fun stuff with my kids, like making cookies together, sharing fruit snacks. Like if I didn't allow myself to do that and I missed out, and I'm not saying, I also like want to give the caveat that like food is not the end all be all. That does not have to be the way that you connect with people or celebrate with people. Um, but obviously food is a big part of our everyday life and our culture, and that's not a bad thing. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. Like it just truly is what it is. To celebrate my birthday, we went out to eat with family after my kids' t-ball game, and that was so enjoyable. It was so nice to sit down with my mom came with us. We had all the kids there. My father-in-law came. Blake's mama was there. And it's not often that we all get to sit down together and spend time together, kind of like in uninterrupted. And just the fact that we ate a meal in the midst of it is like a side, it's a sidebar, it's like just a bonus. But the fact is that that's a really common way that we connect and visit with people, and it's totally okay. And I don't want you to miss out on those things. So just like wanted to share all of this to offer up that perspective, to give you the chance to like take a pause and think about how you're currently treating yourself, how you're currently treating your body. If you're currently restricting yourself, is it really going to matter and feel worth it in the long run? When you are a little grainy, looking back on your life, are you going to wish that you had done anything differently? Are you going to wish that you hadn't been so hard on yourself? Um, and then the other caveat to this that I feel like I shouldn't even have to say, that I probably don't have to say, is that I'm not telling you to just go off the rails and eat a package of Oreos every single day. That's not at all what I'm saying. And I hope that that's not like what was coming through in this conversation. There's absolutely a balance. There is a balance between I'm making really healthy choices today, and tomorrow for dinner, I'm going to go get my favorite fast food joint and I ain't going to worry about it. Like there has to be a balance, because it absolutely does impact the way that we age and the way that we are going, like the health that we're going to have when we are 75, 80, 90 years old. So of course, I want you to be mindful of that. Of course, I want that to also inform your decisions and the choices that you make. But I just wanted to offer this up as kind of the flip side of that perspective and share just my personal story about why I don't restrict myself from certain foods or treats, and I'm never going to again. Because, this experience, and then I've seen, in my time as a nurse, I've seen a lot of things. I cared for a lot of elderly people throughout my time, and all of those experiences have worked to like shape my beliefs and my outlooks on diets and this type of restrictive lifestyle up until this point. So, like I said, for about the 500th time, I just felt like this was an important part of my story and my philosophy and my values that I've never talked about before. I know that there's times when I'm like, I wonder if I've ever shared that before or whatever. I know this is something that I've never talked about before, that I've never shared before. I've never even, until the past probably few months, I've been doing a lot of like mindset work and like digging in, I guess is the right word that I was looking for there, like to figure out like why I think certain things, like why I hold certain beliefs, and like getting down to the root causes of those for a multitude of reasons and about a multitude of things. But like this came up for me. I was like, why is it that I'm so against restrictive diets at a like root level? And I was like, it's this experience. It's this experience that me and my family had, that my sweet papa had to go through. And I just wanted to share it with you guys. So thanks for hanging with me through that story. I know it was probably a little long-winded and maybe I jumped all over the place. I don't know. But I think here on the podcast, you guys are probably used to that by now. So I'm going to wrap it up for this week. I do want to let you know that in the show notes, as always, you can find resources from me and ways to connect with me and ways to work with me. So right now in the show notes, you will find a link to my secret podcast, which is 8 super short episodes. The title's Hormones 101, and that's basically like we're just digging in deeper to hormone related things that you need to know. Then you also will find linked down there an application to work with me. I currently, as of this day, as I'm recording this, have 6 client openings. And I'm running a special right now. I announced it for my birthday. I thought that would be a really fun thing to do. So the first 3 people that sign up to work with me in my one-on-one package are going to get a free repeat HTMA test. And that, not to go down this rabbit hole, but that's super useful to like check in and see what progress you've made. Allow me to give you some more customized recommendations for slight tweaks that might need to be made to get you to a point that you're continuing to see the results that you're seeking. So first 3 people that sign up for that one-on-one package are going to get that free HTMA test, and I'm very excited about that. So that application to work with me is linked in the show notes. Head over there, fill out an application, grab the Hormones 101 Secret podcast link, and then also don't forget to subscribe to the show, especially if this is your first time listening to an episode. That way you don't miss future episodes. I have some really fun things planned for this summer and into the fall that I have been kind of noodling over and brainstorming on over the last couple of weeks. And I think you guys are really going to love it. So I'm going to leave you there for this week. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will talk with you soon.